Hi, welcome to Bino's Garage. On today's video we are going to be replacing the engine casing on my CBR650R. This is the salvage bike that I picked up from Copart, and this is one of the main pieces of damage that's on the bike. So it'll be good to get this replaced and make the bike look normal again pretty much. I've picked up a used engine casing off eBay for about 50 quid. So we're going to put that on, and here's a video on exactly how to do it. If you like what you see, please hit the thumbs up button. Please leave us any comments you have as well. We'll happily answer those. And also subscribe, please. That'd be great. Thank you very much, and enjoy the video. So today, everybody, we're going to be replacing our crankcase cover, which is damaged, as you will see there, on our CBR650R. I've got a replacement from eBay, a used one. These go for about 180 quid new, just for this part. So I've picked up a used one. It's got a tiny little bit of damage on there, but clearly a heck of a lot better than that. I've also got a replacement cap as well to go on there. So basically what we're going to be doing is removing this lower fairing. We're then going to be draining the oil as well. We're then going to be removing the cover, which requires us to undo the CKP sensor, disconnect the clutch, and then there's some pieces on the inside of this cover that we'll have to swap over onto our new cover as well. Okay, so to do this job today, this is what we're going to need tools wise. We're going to need an oil catch pan or something similar to catch the oil that we're going to drain out. We are going to need a 5mm Allen key or Allen key bit. We are going to need a 12mm socket to drain the oil. We're going to need a torque wrench. We are going to need a spanner for 12mm socket. We're going to need silicone to seal back up once we're putting that together. And I've got a new seal in there for the cap that goes on the inside of there. And this is our new cover here. Now you will notice something here. They're slightly different. One is gold, the same colour as the plate, and the other one is the same colour as the body, which is the matte black. I will be respraying this one when I get some body colour, but for the moment that'll be going on like that. Okay, let's get to it. Okay, first things first, let's get the oil drained down, at least to the level where we're not going to have it falling out of the side when we take that cover off. So nice clean catch can, because I plan to reuse this oil. The bike's only just been serviced apparently, so I do plan to reuse this oil. So there you'll see our 12mm bolt that we need to undo, that's on the sump. Putting our oil pan right underneath that so it catches all the oil. I'm not too worried about all of the oil coming out, so I haven't bothered heating up the engine or anything. We just need enough to come out so that it doesn't come out the side. So make sure you're on undo on your socket. There we go. That does reasonably easily. Try not to allow the bolt to follow the oil in if you can help it. Be interesting to see the condition of this oil. It does actually look pretty good. Actually does look like it has just been serviced. Pretty clean. So I'll just let that drain off for a bit. Okay, I've let that run for about a minute and most of it's out. It's just trickling now, and so I'm going to pop this bolt back in. Okay, so we can now move our oil catch pan out of the way because we're no longer dripping. So we get that safely over the back of the bike there, out of the way, ready to be put back in a minute. Well, after we've done this. Ready to be put back in after we've finished. I've got my torque wrench here set to do up, and that is set to 30 Newton meters or 22 foot-pounds, which is the torque for doing up this particular bolt. There we go, all done. Give that a wipe again, just in case. That's part one done. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is take off this under cowl here. So we've got 1, 2, 3 bolts that connect it up, and we've also got a couple in there, you'll be able to see, and under here. So one is an actual bolt and the other is one of these push through kind of fittings here. So push through, I can try and do from above somehow. I might need to get a tool on that just to push that through, so that we can separate the two casings. So that's what we're going to do next. Okay, that's come out quite easily. I just used these on the top, pushed it down a bit, so that's popped out. So let's get the rest of these undone. Now it's good to remember where these have all come out of, because they're actually all different. So what I'll do is, when I've taken this casing off, I will put them all back. I'm lining them up under each bolt hole at the moment. One more to do here, which needs to come off to separate the two halves of the cowl. There we go. Okay, so this should now come off. Just be really gentle. We really don't want to damage this. Things are tucked up behind each other a little bit. There we go. These two front bits will click together. Might actually be another push piece in here. I might need to consider taking off. Let's have a look. There's another bolt in here, cheekily behind here. So we're going to need to push through another one of these on the other side. Release it. So that we can get to that cheeky little bolt in there, look. Just be careful you don't bend your fairings too far, because they will break. There we go. There we go. So it's actually a good opportunity for us to look at the damage on this fairing. So we've got a bit there, and obviously this where it's run along the ground or something, so we do need to look at repairing that somehow. Put that over there safely out of the way. So now we can see what we're up against. So the next thing we need to do is disconnect this crank position sensor, and that is a little connector is just up in here that you need to put your finger on. Probably won't be able to see it. You would see the back end of the cable there. You can just see the coloured yellow and white leads going into the plug. That's the plug we need to unplug, and that is actually the plug that you need to go into when you are programming a new key as well. This is the crank position sensor. So let's get that unplugged. Get a couple of fingers in there. There we go. And it comes off very easily. Next thing we need to do is release this clutch cable. So we take our 5mm Allen key, we're going to undo this. That'll give us enough slack to just take that out of that fitting there. We can leave that just like that. And then what we need to do is remove all of the others. Okay, so we have our bolts all off. They can go under there. So what we next need to do is pull this off without pulling the bike over. It should come off. Obviously it's been sealed with silicone sealant, so it will take a little bit to get it off, and we don't want to damage it. So we just need to think carefully about how we're going to prise this off. So what I'm going to try is just levering on this bar here, not on the plastic here, and there's a little excess bit here. So I'm just going to try levering on that to get a little bit of, there we go. There we go. That's popped off a bit. It is on dowels, it's located on dowels, so just do the same under here as well. On the exhaust there's another one of these plates, so making sure we don't get that cable in the way. And there we go. Okay, and off it comes. Probably should have taken the oil dipstick out, that would have been a good idea. But that's now what we have on the inside that we're going to have to swap over to our new cover. First things first though, we'll check that they're both exactly the same. Okay, so here's our two cover plates side by side. Now then, let's just see, make sure there are no differences here. Can't see anything at the moment other than that. But that is a washer. So that will need to go on there. So that would have come off that. Put that back on there actually. Easier than it being on there. Okay, that's all a bit scary in there. We will need to clean off the excess silicone around all of this though as well. So we need to start swapping some bits over. So let's get round to it. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is switching the bits over to the new colour. As you can see, slightly different coloration here. This is probably a slightly older one. This has only done a couple of thousand miles. This probably did a lot more, but an engine cover is an engine cover, and as long as the outside looks okay and the inside is all within the tolerances, then I'm happy. So let's get these bits off. We've got a 10mm socket here. Should have mentioned the need for that earlier. These are quite tightly done up. Now then, I've got some thread lock on there, so I happen to have some thread lock in my toolbox, so I will be putting a little bit of thread lock on these before they go in, because we would not want anything coming off. Now then, pop that off. So let's just lay this one directly in place. All seems to fit okay. I'm not going to put that in to that socket yet though, because I want to put a bit of sealant in there first. just get some thread lock. Just putting some of that thread lock on there. This cable sits underneath this plate. Let's get that plate back on and get that bolt in there. Same with the other side. Yeah. The right amount of slack in there, and then we'll just tighten these up a bit to start with, and then we'll find the correct torque setting, and I will tell you what that is. These ones did not have any Loctite or anything on them, so I'm just going to do these ones up. They were. Okay, so we also need to switch over the oil filler that one. So I'll just put that to the side for now. And the last thing is this clutch lever. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to note the orientation of that spring in there. So I'm drawing out the clutch. I'm going to lift out the spring, pop it into this one. And I'm going to pop this back in. Now this has got an oil seal in it already, and it has got all the needle roller bearings in there as well. So in theory we're all good, and that should be okay. So everything is now off the damaged one, and we can put that to one side for now. So we're just left with our remaining one. So what we are going to need to do is put sealant around all of this, and we also need to torque these bolts up. But the next job is to get all of the old sealant off the engine casing. Okay, so what I have just done is I've taken a bit of kind of Scotch pad here, nylon pad, and I've just cleaned off the maintenance surface all the way around to get rid of all the old sealant. You can take these dowels out while you're doing it. Do that. Make sure you don't get any rubbish in your engine casing. What we need to do now is we need to apply a couple of beads of sealant in certain places on this case, and the rest of the sealant will be going on this case. I haven't been able to find the torque settings for these 4 bolts in the manual anywhere, so I have just done them up pretty tight, but without too tight I might damage the casing. Okay. Okay, so the two places on the main casing that you have to put sealant in place are where the two halves of the casing come together, so here and here. And it's supposed to be 10 to 15 millimeters of sealant on there. So okay, to one side. That's the other. Don't want to do too much there. And now we need to do the inside of the engine casing. That needs to go around the inside of the bolt holes all the way around. So again, I'm not going to do too much. Okay, so we've now gone all the way round, and we have a pretty uniform bead of sealant all the way round there. We're ready to pop it back on. Use the dowels to get everything lined up. Okay, so I've just managed to get the cover back on. What I wasn't doing properly is I didn't have the clutch selector in the right position, so it wasn't going on, but it is now in place. You need to move the clutch selector to a position where it is there's a hole for the rods to go into. So what I'm just doing now is just wiping the mess off the case, and I'll just nip up the bolts now to 12 Newton meters. So we can get all of these in here. So I'm going to dial this right the way back now to 12 Newton meters or 9 foot-pounds. So that's 12 there. Get it done up and get the socket in there. And what we'll do is we'll go alternate ends. So it's not actually very tight. There isn't a specific tightening sequence in the manual, just doing it alternate sides really, working my way round. This one up here is for the clutch cable one, so we won't do that quite yet. What I'm going to do now is just remove any excess sealant from anywhere, just to tidy it up. Should have a nice little bead that's been pushed out all the way round ideally. So the next thing we need to do, we can put our oil dipstick back in. We can also put in a new seal and cap here. What we'll do is just give this a quick wipe round. Okay, got a new seal in there. And what I will do is just give that a quick lick of oil. Just give that a little lick so it does a better seal. And that can go in there. As I said earlier, I will be painting this black to match the original at some point. I will torque that up properly in a minute before we finish off. So the last thing here is to hook this clutch lever cable back into the back there and do this bolt up here as well to 12 newton meters. There is a little pin there that it needs to align with. There we go. Okay, once we've replaced this, that needs to be done up to 18 newton meters or 13 foot-pounds, which my torque wrench has been set to. It's a 17 millimeter nut. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give this a bit of time for the sealant to go off before I refill with oil, but I can go ahead and replace the the lower fairings that we took off earlier. I would probably have kept them off just so that we can keep an eye out for leaks, but a bit pushed for time, so I'm going to whack them back on now. So refitment is the reverse of removal, but obviously we need to remove the bolts that we put back in. One there, one there. And this one right here as well. Okay, so there we go. Make sure we haven't got any more sealant anywhere. So we are therefore nearly done. I'm going to wait for the sealant to set everywhere, and then we will plug our crank position sensor back in, and we will look at whether we need to adjust the clutch at all. And of course we will fill our engine oil up. So let's give that a little bit of time to sort itself out. Okay, so we're back. It's a few hours later. I've given the sealant a decent amount of time to go off. So what we need to do now is plug back in our position sensor. Yeah, you can tell there that the sealant there has gone off, so that tells us all we need to know. This is our crank position sensor. It needs to plug back in where it was. There we go. Let's click it back on. And next thing we need to do is fill up the oil. So we're going to, in this case, pour back in the oil that we took out. I've got a nice angled filler here, which has got a bit of a filter in it as well, which is helpful. So I'm going to pop that in there, and I know that this is the oil that we took out, so I know that it'll all fit in on the way in. So I can just okay, all done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run the bike for a little bit, get up to temperature, let it cool down, and then we'll check the oil again, as well as checking for any leaks that we might have. Fire it up. Okay, so I have let the engine run for about 5 minutes to get it a bit warmer, and now what I'm going to do is just test the oil level again. So the way you're supposed to do this is take out the oil filler cap, clean that off, pop it back in, but do not screw it up. So what we can see there is that that's pretty much on the maximum mark there, which is spot on. Check it again. Yeah, that's on the max. Cool, so we don't need to do anything more with that. Pop that up. Engine oil is done. So we're all good. I've checked the clutch, I've been through the gears up and down, and everything's working fine. So all done. So now we have a nice clean newish crank case, and the only thing left to do is to repaint this when I get some body colour paint to match the original bike. But what I might do with the original one, which is banged up, if I can repair it, I might look at spraying that black to see what that looks like, and that may be a future video, might not. Depends if I can fix it up or not. But I wouldn't mind seeing what it looked like with the black on here.